Well, there are Zoom balloons that just happen.
I don't know what does the balloons.
I think it's the peace sign.
It might be that, yeah. When I do air quotes sometimes it shows up. Yep, okay, yeah. You can edit that out, Sherry. What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a grown man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid. I read them as an adult because I was determining if society had been sleeping on the series. I said yes, and now I'm reading more of the things. I'm seeing if society has also been sleeping on the Heroes of Olympus series, and I am not on this quest alone. I'm never on this quest alone. Today, I am joined by someone who you have heard on the podcast. They are the host and producer of Breakfast in Beauclair. They're the co-founder of Lengthy Tangent, the executive producer of Pecurliar Radio, someone that does a lot of painting stuff we'll talk about soon, and most importantly, someone who rode the school bus with me from kindergarten through 8th grade. It's Alyssa Esteban. Alyssa, how's it going?
Hi, guys. I'm doing really well. What a fun intro.
Yeah, I always got to get it in there.
Things.
I always got to get it in there. You know, you were at the baby shower, and it was fun always introducing you like, hello, this is Alyssa. We rode the kindergarten school bus together. And people were like, what? You still have friends from when you were 5? Like, yeah, dude. Yeah, dude.
And then we saw our other friend, who we also knew when we were 5, which blew my mind because I haven't seen him in like 20 years.
Right,
so
that's
it was
the wild
just,
thing.
Yeah.
The wild thing is now the length of time between seeing people. So yeah, you hadn't seen Josh since 14 years old, and then now we're almost 34. Ugh.
Yeah, it's been like 18 years. And he's just like, yeah, I have an entire child. I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
How long has it been?
Right. That was even the wilder thing is me and Josh have been friends since I was 2. I've got some lengthy, long friendships, which is fun and cool. And I'm glad to have you here on the show. Now, before we get into the stuff about chapters 15 and 16, what's your history with the Heroes of Olympus books?
Ooh, that is a great question. You got me back into rereading Percy Jackson, understandably, blazed through Percy Jackson, and then subsequently bought all of the Heroes of Olympus books. If I'm remembering correctly, I think this was like somewhat around like end of COVID times because I was I remember distinctly being in my apartment alone on my bed, nothing going on. I read all 10 books in less than 2 weeks.
Yep.
And I loved them. I devoured them. Breakfast in Beauclair is all about The Witcher. There's so much I love there that is so similar to Heroes of Olympus, like all the shows I gravitate toward, things like The Umbrella Academy, Bridgerton, like Sex Education, all that fun stuff, and The Witcher as well. Really awesome ensemble pieces. And I think that's what I love so much about Heroes of Olympus, is that you just get to fall in love with every single character that you meet, and they're so different and they're so complete. And they all go through such a wonderful arc over the course of these 5 books that, like, how could you not love the series? And I feel like it's controversial for me to say that I think I love Heroes of Olympus more than Percy Jackson.
I honestly think that's the more popular take.
Is
Everyone's
it? Okay.
afraid to say it, but I think everyone's like, I don't want to like cause any problems here. But I think like, and I will keep saying it. I think it's like the Toy Story sequel approach where like Toy Story 2 is objectively better as a film than Toy Story 1. You can't have it without Toy Story 1 though. So it's hard to like pick it being better or your favorite. And I think it's fine to apples and oranges them. But yeah, I think everyone likes the Heroes of Olympus stuff more.
Yeah. Obviously no spoilers, but The Lost Hero is probably, I just love the other books so much that The Lost Hero ends up being my least favorite book. So I feel like...
I said this on an episode where I said I thought it was everyone's consensus least favorite. And I got some pushback where people would say, it's not everyone's most favorite, but it's definitely, and then spoiler blockers, whether that's on Reddit or Discord. So I think I might have it wrong that there might be a more consensus least favorite, but I have at least gathered that The Lost Hero is not everyone's overall favorite. Whatever the situation is, this book freaking slaps. So I
love that for you. And that honestly means that there's so much more exciting stuff for you to look forward to, and you're just going to love the rest of the series. Knock on wood.
I'm really excited. Yeah, I know that I'm going to. There's no way that I won't. And I will say I did pull up a text message from September 16th, 2021 that you sent me where I was inviting you to the Meddling Adults live show that we were doing in New York. And then you said, thanks for the heads up. I was just writing a tweet about TNO. I finished all 10 Camp Half-Blood books and Heroes of Olympus books between episodes 1 and 3. So yes, you did read 10 books in a 2-week span.
I can't believe that was what, like 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, wild.
Stop.
Yes. Yeah, we're recording this on May 30th. So approaching 3
Time
years
is a flat
ago.
circle, yeah.
It's ridiculous. You also then, in November of 2021, I love having all my text messages. Like my phone deletes them every 30 days or whatever, but they stay forever on my laptop. And even though it takes up a bunch of room, I will never delete it because it's great to do stuff like this. You also sent a text November 17th, 2021, rereading Heroes of Olympus. And if you ever need anyone for Blood of Olympus chapters 17 and 18 in like 6 years, let me know.
What is it? Now I need to figure out like what it is.
What happened?
Yeah. House of Hades, Heroes of Olympus, Rockstar books.
Mm-hmm. And for anyone worrying, I do know the titles of the Heroes of Olympus books, so that is not spoiler 10. I still don't know like which books are what, even though they are literally, I'm pointing off screen, but they are literally in front of me, but they're just like stacked in not the correct order, and I don't look at them, and I don't like see what the number is. So I don't know. Like, I don't know which one. I think I know that Son of Neptune is next, but other than that, I'm not exactly sure. So it's still a mystery.
Yes.
Yes. Now, other things to discuss before we get into it. You have a dog named Piper, and we're discussing Piper chapters.
Yes.
Is there a non-spoilery way to discuss this, or should we just leave it at your dog is named after Piper?
Oh, absolutely. So this is a delightful story. Yes. Between the last time I was on US Olympian to now, I now have a wonderful, delightful 11-month-old puppy named Piper. She's a Cavapoo. She's got her own Instagram. It's Piper Cuts. Go follow her. She wears a lot of Ranger sweaters. And she's obsessed with pickleball. She's a great child.
Oof. Ooh, I didn't know that she was already gone.
Yeah.
Gone NIMBY.
Oh, it's wild. We will go to, because we live quite close to Madison Square Garden, and they've just put like a pickleball indoor space there.
And I will take that. As a tennis player that's incredibly anti-pickleball, I am pro put a pickleball court in a place that isn't already a tennis court. That's fine.
Yeah.
I know in Texas, they're turning like abandoned malls into pickleball courts. Great.
Yeah.
I've seen in New York, they've turned some parking lots into pickleball courts. Great. If you are playing pickleball on a tennis court, get out of here. Go home with your child's/elderly beach game and do not take up my tennis. Like, you can do it. I guess this is me being the most NIMBY. It's like, not on my lawn. like, get it. This is not what you're here for.
Yeah. Me and my friends have kind of this running joke about like what does and doesn't qualify as a sport.
Uh-huh.
And it's really fascinating to hear the distinctions as to what does and what doesn't.
I remember defending, because you did cheerleading at St. Greg's.
Yes.
I remember very vehemently, because that was the thing, like, at least when I was a boy in 2006, where it was like, cheerleading's not a sport.
Yeah.
And I was like, have you seen the stuff they're doing? Like, and we had the thing where at one day a year, the boys would learn the cheerleading routines for Spirit Day. And I was a flyer, and I was like, this is very challenging stuff. Like, this is a sport. Everyone shut up.
Yeah. Like, if I remember my friend's criteria, it has to do with like an element of like competition, et cetera, et cetera. But they were kind of going on about like, is pickleball a sport? And my partner, he's probably going to get flamed by someone for this, was saying that like, if you can have somebody who's 8 compete against someone who's 80 and it's still a fair game, it might not be a sport. And I was like, I don't know if I agree with that, but that is an interesting point.
That is interesting. To me, it feels like part of a sport.
Yeah.
Like, it is very similar to like a warm-up you do in tennis. It's the thing you do before you start playing tennis.
Okay.
And it reminds me, like, if someone, instead of being like, hi, would you like to play basketball? They say, hello, would you like to just shoot free throws? Or like, instead of playing soccer, it's like, do you want to play soccer? Like, I mean, even horse, at least it's like a game. But like, I would not call horse a sport. I would call that a game.
Yeah.
And even with like soccer, it's like, do you want to play soccer? No, but how do you feel about only kicking penalty kicks? This feels like a drill or a practice, not a sport. But like, look, at the end of the day, if it gets you out and gets you moving, I'll take it.
It's great.
Like, if you're going to do it, fine. But this like bro culture of like, let's get wasted and play pickleball. It's like, just try tennis. Like, I think more people should just try it is fun. Like, tennis is not that intimidating. Like,
and tennis
you should just try
is coming
tennis.
up. Thanks, Zendaya.
Thank you. Yes. Have weird threesomes and play tennis. Go do it.
It's so on the children's podcast.
I'm sex positive and tennis positive. Oh, gosh.
And back to the children's show.
Back to the children's show. But again, before we get into it,
Piper.
You also had
we were talking about Piper.
Piper.
Yeah, so Piper loves pickleball. She'll run back and forth along the court, and she's obsessed. But yeah, so non-spoiler reason is the reason why I got a dog in the first place is my partner had worked very close to a little puppy store in New York City. And we kind of got into the habit of stress relieving by playing with puppies about 3 to 4 times a week for about 4 months. So it felt slightly inevitable that at some point we would walk out with a dog.
Oh, yeah.
And so we went there one day. They handed me 4 different Cavapoos. I was playing with them. And at the end, I feel like I got kind of tricked. They were just like, okay, out of these 4, which one do you like? And I was like, that one? And they're like, great, we'll draw up the paperwork. I was like, oh God. I mean, we knew the staff. We knew the staff by that point.
That's what they did.
That's
I think
what they did.
used the Piper BMW trick.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and so I, walk out with this massive envelope of paperwork, and we sit down at the Grey Dog, which is also a restaurant in New York. I go, what did I just do? So we go pick her up. That was, I think, a Friday. Go pick her up on Monday. They literally hand her to us. And they're just like, okay, great, bye. And then we're standing on the street with a dog with no harness, no nothing. And we're just holding this little tiny body. And we're just like, maybe we go to Petco. Maybe we think we need to get her stuff. So we, picked up everything and went back to the house. But all that to say, when it came to naming her, there's all sorts of names from, literature, stuff like that. Mentally, I kind of quickly went through all the names in The Witcher. I was like, I can't name her Philippa and Radovid and Regis Far. I can't, that's all silly. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Percy Jackson in my little brain and I was like, ooh, maybe Piper would be great. There's another name that I thought that I also considered from a future character in Heroes of Olympus. So I'm not going to say. I settled on Piper because it's a really good shouting across the dog park name.
Ooh,
and I think that's really
good.
important for pets and for children to have a really good name you can shout.
Yes. Yeah. It's a factor. And we had to factor that in with the name for our baby, which will remain undisclosed until she's old enough to decide if we want to say her name on the podcast. But it is a factor of we had to think okay, if we are yelling it, not that we would yell at her, but same thing. If she's lost in the grocery store and we have to say her name, does it sound weird? And then there's all the other factors is it nicknameable in case she doesn't like it and wants to go by a nickname?
Can they be a grown adult?
Sure.
With that name?
Can they? Is there a too easy of a bullying thing to go with it? Are the initials okay? Do the initials spell a bad word?
Mm-hmm.
Is there? There's all the factors that go into a name. So yeah, being able to shout it across the dog park and not sound like a ridiculous human, I totally get it. You can't have too many syllables. It can't be too weird.
Yeah.
I get you.
I've heard some interesting dog names over the last few months, but
yeah, it's fun to have a really punny name and stuff, but also just name your Wi-Fi a pun.
Also, you still have to file for insurance with your dog's name.
Oh, that's great.
Just a thing. Yeah, so when you're putting Doc McStuffins and cashmere on official paperwork.
Yeah, his name is A Tribe Called Best Boy. That's
we have a character limit of 15 characters.
There's too many spaces. It can't be this many words. Amazing. Well, let's get into chapters 15 and 16 of The Lost Hero, which are both called Piper, weirdly enough, but we will be doing the thing that we're doing now on TNO where we rename the chapter title at the end. So if you want to start thinking of what you would title this chapter if it was a Percy Jackson main book and it was going to have a quirky title, you can start thinking of that. But we are starting with chapter 15 where we last left our heroes, where we last left the story. We had Jason figuring out that his last name is Derula. No, it's Grace. Where we last left Piper, though, she had just been yassified, as Jania Stewart has said in a previous episode. So we're going to pick up from there, kind of slight time jump, which is really fun with these books, is that you start the next chapter and you don't know where it's going to be. It could pick up exactly where the last chapter left off. It could be where the last time we saw this character was, and I'm really enjoying it. So this one is kind of where we last left it. It's similar to the last Jason chapter. It opens with, quote, Piper woke up and immediately grabbed a mirror. There were plenty of those in the Aphrodite cabin. She sat on her bunk, looked at her reflection, and groaned. She was still gorgeous, which out of context is hilarious. In context makes sense, but also it's such a fun way to start the chapter because you've already learned, oh, she went to the cabin. That makes sense. Yeah. She spent a night in the cabin. I wonder how it went. So it's a really fun time jump because it gets you enthralled enough to be how did it go? She had to sleep in the same place as Drew. That couldn't have gone well, could it? And we'll learn it didn't.
Yes. It's interesting because when you think about the gods, of course, we didn't explore Aphrodite too much in Percy Jackson. And we only got Selena, who was lovely. Beautiful character.
Until we learned more about her.
Yeah. Okay, she had some things, not everybody's perfect. God.
Yeah. Look.
Just a little bit of treason.
Everyone has their
we
warts.
Can glaze it over.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Responsible for the murder of her boyfriend. What are you going to do? It happens.
Yes. She was a sweet horse girl. She made a lot of mistakes. She's got a time and a place, and I hope that is, an Elysium with little Charlie B. But we didn't actually learn a lot about the actual Aphrodite campers. So I think it's really fascinating to suddenly get a look at this very cliquey hierarchy that exists and that's been imposed upon them.
Yeah. I at first was worried, and then as we learn more about the campers, you see that it's not exactly as it appears, which I think is really fun. Now, Piper, even though she's trying to mess up her hair, it just doesn't work. Apparently, even if you try to mess up your looks, you just remain perfect, or so I thought. We learn more about it because I wrote my notes. Does that break canon? I feel like in Percy Jackson, we had instances of characters from the Aphrodite cabin fixing their appearances. We will see in 5 sentences that something changes. Piper wants to change her clothes, but doesn't have any other options, and all the other Aphrodite cabin mates have only prettier and/or more ornate clothing options, so she can't just put on jeans and a t-shirt like she wants to.
Yeah.
Even after a horrible night's sleep, she looks amazing, despite her usual morning appearance, which is more zombie-like, which I can totally relate to. No matter if I get 5 hours of sleep or 12 hours of sleep, for the first 3 hours after I wake up, I look rough. People all the time, and no one should ever do this, but people in college all the time would be like, oh my God, are you okay? You look rough. It's good to know if I was on those sleep. I feel awful, and now I'm glad to know I look awful as well. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but it takes me a long time for my face to look like I am ready to embrace society.
That's so funny. I'm actually the opposite.
Oh, nice.
I'm sorry to tell you.
No, hey, I'm happy for you. I would not wish it upon anyone.
Well, because the other magical thing that sometimes happens to me, if I'm naughty and fall asleep in my makeup, I have perfected it in such a way that I can fall asleep for 6-7 hours and it looks exactly the same when I wake up. So
amazing.
I can just roll out of bed and go walk the dog.
Huge.
Yeah. And then Neil's just why do you look like that? It's 6:30 in the morning. This isn't fair.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this could be true to you, but also Piper literally is I woke up like this person in our lives. Yeah. So yeah, here we go. She's doing it. Praise be to Beyonce.
Yeah. Don't sleep in your makeup, guys. It's bad. Don't do it.
Okay. I have to, no matter what, I got to wash my hair out with any hair product I put in before because my acne acts up. And speaking of the acne, she even had a zit that she had named Bob. It had stuck around for so long, and even her acne is gone. And as a 32-year-old that still has clinical acne problems that I have to get prescriptions for, I'm very jealous of this. Good for her. Proud of her. And we've got 2 Bobs now in the Percy Jackson universe. We have Bob the Titan. We have Bob the Pimple. Bob the Titan first shows up in the Demigod Files. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bob the Titan makes a return. He felt like a very big character. And I think he did they referenced him in book 5. So I feel like he has a chance of legitimately returning, but we'll see. But it's still funny in retrospect that Kelly did tell me one of these 3 stories is the most relevant. And I never would have guessed Bronze Dragon. I never would have guessed that the dragon would be the most important one going forward. Now, Drew sees Piper trying to mess up her looks, and she informs her that the blessing from Aphrodite lasts at least one more day, could last up to a week if you're lucky. So that explains it's not an all-time thing, it's just a temporary thing. Piper is distraught. The other Aphrodite campers, which we learned there are 12 girls and 5 guys. I love that they gave us concrete numbers. Yeah. That was one of the most frustrating things in Harry Potter is they never really gave us the numbers. You always have to kind of read between the lines to figure out how many people are actually kind of there. So it's cool to be all right, there are 18 Aphrodite campers. Boom. Yeah. It's nice knowing the stats. And these other campers smirk and snicker. And that made me really sad because, as you kind of mentioned, felt a little cliquey initially, but we'll see that there might be some good eggs, which is really nice.
Yeah. I also am very interested to see, I don't remember when this specific book came out.
I think it was 2009 or 2010 or something like that.
Okay. So it's been a minute because I feel like if we ever got to see Heroes of Olympus on screen, I know there's always going to be, mean kids, but I feel like the concept of cliques doesn't quite exist now in the same way as it did when we were younger.
I would really hope so. I think it hasn't, based on my vibe of people who I know that are younger and stuff. It feels more like individuality has been embraced, and that is amazing. That is so great, and I'm very excited for that, and I hope it's true. I'm sure there's still some clique stuff going on, but it doesn't seem as bad, which is good.
Yeah, because I feel like obviously Mean Girls, cultural phenomenon, like that's what it was like when we were growing up.
Oh, totally.
So like I do wonder if this gets brought to screen, like are they going to massage that so it feels more true to how people are today? Or is it just there's always mean people and it's going to feel clicky no matter what? Just a curious thought I had while reading it.
Sure. I'm sure there is. And I'm sure there's things that kids today have to deal with that we don't. Like, I never had to worry about how many Instagram followers I had. I never had to worry about, my social media presence when I was young. Yeah. It didn't happen until like high school or college. Like even we had MySpace in like 7th grade, but like, I don't know, it wasn't as bad as, strict numbers of like, what are the engagement numbers and analytical metrics on my posts? Like that would have destroyed me.
Why was I talking about top 8 this morning?
Bro, that was wild. And I've said this on at least one of my podcasts, but I had the bad thing happen where initially MySpace was coded to where they would sort it like people with accounts that are earliest versus latest so that Tom would be your number one friend. Mm-hmm. And I was really early in on MySpace because Josh Pacifico, our friend we referenced earlier, he was really early in on MySpace and he was my best friend and he signed me up for an account. So I was in like a lot of people's top 8s. And then when you got to customize it, I got removed from a lot of people's top 8s, and that was not great for 8th grade Mike Schubert's self-esteem.
Oh, no.
It was not wonderful.
I distinctly remember signing up for MySpace, and I want to say it was after 8th grade.
Nice,
however,
good.
I think it was either at or maybe it must have been directly after a dance recital that I had that June. So I think I went home, immediately signed up for MySpace. But yeah.
Gosh, what a time. What a time. I have deleted all the accounts, but I had a good page with the quiz thing and background music and a big ocean wave because I was really big into being the surf guy that I was in New Jersey. Man, fun stuff. I had a lot of puka shells. Anyway.
I remember those. I remember them.
Piper knew that she could play cool and prevent them from getting under her skin like she did with popular kids in the past, but this felt different because they're not just classmates, they're her siblings.
Yeah.
And that does add a new wrinkle to things, which really stinks. She starts to wonder how Aphrodite could have this many similarly aged kids in quick succession. And I never thought about this, and it's blowing my mind, especially because she's a goddess. I'm sure that the pregnancy works different.
Yeah.
Obviously, people are popping out of brains, like Athena's out of Zeus's skull and stuff. So it could all just be instant
and all the Athena's
stuff.
Kids too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not under the delusion that she has to have traditional 9-month pregnancies and stuff, but it is still weird that if there are a lot of people your age in your cabin, that your godly parent had a bunch of flings. And I never thought of that. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's such a good point to bring up.
I think it's also a lot of timey-wimey stuff because can't they split themselves into various... I feel like it's almost her, where you've got one iteration technically having 8 different relationships that are all independent, but it's still the same
It's very
entity.
John Tucker Must Die as well. Could be dating multiple people at the same time,
But it does feel like they get a god pass.
Yeah, it is a lot of well, they can do this stuff because they're gods and whatever. But I also think it's part of yeah, it's a book and we need other campers. And it would be weird if there was 6 of them and they were all 1 year apart, Yeah. It's better to have 18 people roughly the same age. It just makes for a more compelling book. So
I mean, still way less than in the Hermes cabin anyway. So.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And if Zeus didn't have the pact, then there would be 7,000 Zeus kids because that guy's just getting it.
And the worlds couldn't handle that.
No, God. Oh, my God, no. Drew, like a jerk, says, quote, "You're thinking you don't belong here? We couldn't agree more. Isn't that right, Mitchell?" And then Mitchell goes, yeah, sure, which initially made me have some high hopes for Mitchell. And those soon will be validated. And we get some good Mitch. And this felt very much like if this kid gets name dropped, I think Mitch is going to come back immediately. And he does. So I'm excited for our new friend, Mitch. Now, everyone else looks too shook to speak. And Piper feels okay, maybe I can win them over. And this situation just kind of feels like your classic grasshoppers versus the ants in A Bug's Life.
Yes.
Power in numbers, and we too can feed Drew to a giant bird. So I think if they band together, they can fight against Drew, and I hope that they do it by the end of the book.
It's an A+ analogy.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it. A Bug's Life is mad underrated. It's a good movie. It's very good.
I think we're just going to live in 2004 to 2006 for this whole recording.
Yeah,
and just
let's do do it. It's fun.
Don't
Look,
ask for us
I will
anything more,
bust
so.
out the plaid cargo shorts and we'll make it work.
What a time. Delia's on top, limited to. Let's
Claire's,
take us
Aeropostale, Hollister, but not Abercrombie because I'm not old enough yet. Drew says that breakfast is in 15 minutes and the cabin needs to be cleaned. She assigns Mitch to garbage duty because he needs to continue to learn his lesson. And Drew thinks that Piper might have that job soon enough, even if she does survive her quest. Drew then kicks out an 11-year-old who was still using the shower out from the bathroom, and that girl begins to cry. Of all the cabins to not have multiple bathrooms, the Aphrodite cabin, are you kidding me? Like, unless this is a camp-wide rule, there needs to be the separate bathroom that's like just the mirrors and sinks.
Yeah.
Like, we need a whole separate situation because if anyone's going to spend a lot of time in front of the mirror using the bathroom, it's going to be the Aphrodite kids.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely going to be like half the cabin is just vanities. I imagine that scene in House Bunny, we're going a little bit more recent, but the scene in House Bunny where they're all kind of like over the folding tables, just all doing their hair and makeup.
Yeah, no, give me the classic green room, big bulbs over the mirrors. Like, yeah, come on, we need that situation. So then there's a bit of a strange line from the narrator that just feels very 2010 dated. Quote, the guys had one row of bunks separated by a curtain, but their section of the cabin was just as neat and orderly as the girls. Something was definitely unnatural about that part.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know, that last sentence is just like, it's not that bad. It's just a weird thing to be like, let's talk about how boys are stereotypically messy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't particularly messy when I was a teen. I don't know. It's just a weird.
Doesn't have to be gendered. Like,
yeah, it's just like, it's not that it's like this big bad line, but it's just like, that was just, what's the point of this sentence?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Each camper has a trunk of clothes with their name painted on it, and they each personalize their bunks with photos or pictures of celebrities. So either personal photos or pictures of people that they think are hot. And this raises a very important question. Who was on your closet door with a lot of pictures of people you thought was hot? I can go first to kind of reduce the tension, but I had multiple magazine ripouts of Jessica Alba. I had a poster of Maria Sharapova, and I think that was it. I was more like monogamist with my approach. It was like, I like Jessica Alba a lot. Here are 5 magazine ripouts of her on the wall.
Yeah.
But I know it's like, mine is still intact on my high school bedroom door in Texas. Kelly's is still intact on the inside of her closet. Kelly's is great. There's like a wonderful, like wide array. It's diverse in age and different fandoms and what the guys look like. It's fantastic. There's a lot of, she's got a great door. Did you have one? And if so, who was on it?
So I will say, I was very individualistic. So I wasn't super involved in like a lot of the pop culture stuff when we were growing up, just because the only thing I listened to when we were in the car was my dad's Beatles 1 CD and a Jim Croce cassette tape. That's all I listened to. So everyone would talk about like the Spice Girls. I'd be like, I don't know what is going on there.
You definitely zagged while everyone zigged. You were reading Inuyasha while everyone else was reading, J14 magazine.
So that brings us to what I'm just about to say was covering my closet. And I had like a full kind of double door closet. So there was a lot of space there.
A lot of real
I
estate.
distinctly remember printing out, if you guys have played Harvest Moon. So there were a lot of little cutouts of small cows and chickens and like characters like that on my closet. If I was to do this now that I am a fun and out bisexual, that would be a very different closet. I'm like, who would be on there now? Lots of people.
Good.
Everybody under the sun would be on my closet.
Amazing. Great. And mine now would just be exclusively pictures of Kelly.
I love that. And then like small heart cutouts of your small child.
Oh gosh, yes. I got to get a photo here in the Shubio. I have one of me podcasting with my nephew out of camera frame.
Yeah.
I need to get a little one of the baby as well. Thank you for sharing this. This is great. So Piper is worried about this because she says, quote, as the narrator, Piper hoped she might not see, in italics, capital T, capital P, the poster. And I was just so excited of the thought of her dad being a modern day Burt Reynolds with like the poster. Oh, just so great. Now, Piper, as the narrator explains, that the movie, and I don't know if we've learned about it Well, yeah. So they say it here. The movie that has made her dad a big deal was over a year old, so she thought that the poster might be gone by now. It's like, Piper, people don't do that. Like, they don't put oh, this movie's a year old. I can't have this poster up anymore. Like, that is not how that works.
Yeah, clearly they last at least 15 years. We have confirmed evidence.
Yeah.
Intact, not going anywhere.
Nope. Still got my I Am Legend poster from when I went to see that on the release weekend it came out. Amazing. Still have my Michael Jordan poster from the St. Greg's Carnival from 4th grade or something. Aww. From our K through 8 school. I still got some old posters, but she hoped it would be gone. And unfortunately, she sees a copy on display. Now, the movie is King of Sparta, and we've got her dad oiled up, bare chest, ripped pecs and abs, wearing a war kilt and a purple cape, and he's holding a sword. Piper calls it the most ridiculous poster of all time. Her and her dad initially laughed at how absurd it was, but then the movie became incredibly popular, and thus the poster became incredibly popular, so much so that it was just this inescapable image that she has seen and dealt with her whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah. When I read that passage, the thing that came to mind for me was both John Cena and Channing Tatum have done all sorts of ridiculous, SNL sketches and stuff like that, where they just got this super long, silly Fabio kind of hair, rip off their shirts in the wind. But it was coming to mind as a bit silly for me. And I think it's because she describes it as silly because it's still your dad. It's funny when it's your dad, and it's kind of embarrassing when it's your dad.
It's especially weird. It made me think of I remember I have an older sister, and she came to one of my high school basketball games once, and other guys on the team were talking about who's that hot blonde girl in the crowd, and I was like, oh god.
No.
It's just it's that's my sister. And then I've definitely told this story on podcast before, but it's forever great that my bully in high school, who's not doing well, which makes me pretty happy. My bully in high school, he tried to make fun of me for having a hot sister. And my friend Quentin said the best thing ever, loud enough one day so that this guy could hear it. My friend Quentin went, Mike, the weirdest, you and your sister look so much alike. And he never made fun of me for it again ever.
Amazing.
And I thank Quentin for that every day. But yeah, it's just weird to have people talking about someone you're related to. Anyone ogling over that is just ugh, it's weird.
Yeah. And then you have moms who are just date my son or daughter. Just date everybody. You think they're attractive? Go for it. They can use the partnership.
Piper cleans her bed and notices that her top blanket is the one that Jason wrapped her in previously. She smells it. Quote, it smelled of wood smoke, but unfortunately not of Jason.
Yeah.
I love how teenage the narrators are. They are such teenagers. It's great. I'm so here for it.
Olfactory senses are a thing. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love my partner's cologne. It's the best smell in the whole wide world. And yeah.
Look, I get it. And I also remember doing the reverse of me loaning out a sweatshirt to a girlfriend of mine in high school and then having to wash it 4 times in a row to make it not smell like her anymore. After she broke up with me, I broke up with her because she cheated on me at an event called Prom with Jesus. So that was cool.
Yes, that seems, that all tracks, that all seems like it logically makes sound sense and has definitely happened. Yep, there's nothing else to say about Prom with Jesus.
It makes for a good story. I'll take it, and it's fine. And, just had to wash the old Surf Taco sweatshirt 4 times to get it back. It's mine now. Yeah. I wonder where it is. I guess I'd probably give it to charity. It doesn't fit me anymore. Anyway, Percy Jackson. Okay.
We're now full circle.
Yay! Now, what makes me happy is that Piper recognizes that Jason was the only person who was genuinely nice to her after the claiming. And this is good because Jason was intentionally trying to do that, and he hoped that it came across. Mm-hmm. So it's good to know from Piper's perspective as the narrator that that did ring true.
Yeah.
She says as the narrator that he was the only one who cared about how she felt, not how she looked, and she wanted to kiss him, but could tell that he was uncomfortable, but also she can't blame him. So this is just good. I'm glad that everyone's head of our main characters seems to be in the right place when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it makes me very happy.
I'm also, as you were talking about that, I'm man, I'm so glad we didn't have to have 5 books of Annabeth's perspective. The whole time Percy was just being so dumb about the whole thing.
He's very good at most things, and with dealing with the lady situation, I would say that is his fatal flaw. It's just not his strong suit at all. Now, Mitch comes by on garbage patrol, and Piper asks what he did to upset Drew to get this punishment. And apparently, he said to Drew after Piper got claimed, hey, Piper might not be so bad. And that was sin great enough to be hit with trash duty, which is just ridiculous. But I guess Drew's the worst, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Piper thanks him. Mitch welcomes her to cabin 10, and then a girl in blonde pigtails runs up to Piper with new clothes. This is Lacey. Mitch introduces her to Piper. This is the girl who got kicked out of the shower, and Lacey informs Piper that she can change her clothes despite the blessing and explains that they have additional ones and a fully stocked backpack with nectar, ambrosia, all that kind of stuff ready for the quest for her. And she wishes her good luck on the quest, which is nice. I really like Lacey and Mitch. I like that it didn't take a long time for Piper to have nice people in the cabin.
Yeah, and good for Lacey. She seems like, what a mortifying thing to have happen to an 11-year-old, getting kicked out of the shower and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The fact that she's so sweet, still really thoughtful, and has Piper in mind is lovely.
It's really nice. Lacey rushes away before Piper can thank her, so Piper stops her and tries to thank her, but Lacey gets really nervous, and Mitch explains that she fears Drew finding out. Lacey says she doesn't want to have to wear, quote, the shoes of shame. And I was wondering, what are they? Are they boat shoes? Are they Crocs? What are they? Closer to Crocs, they are bright white orthopedic nurse's shoes. And then Lacey has such a funny line. I actually laughed out loud reading, quote, I had to wear them for a week once. They don't go with anything. With anything in italics. So funny. So funny. And as someone that does stress of, do my shoes match my outfit? I could totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Mitch says that the punishments can get worse because Drew can charm speak, which not every Aphrodite cabin camper can do, only particular ones. She can get people to do really embarrassing things. And Mitch says that Piper is the first person to resist the charm speak from Drew. So that is pretty cool to see. Piper asks if charm speak could maybe work on forcing someone to give you something, I don't know, like a car. And
just asking for a friend.
I'm just picking an example out of the sky. What if you went to a car dealership and you got a new BMW? Oh. So she's starting to piece it together. Piper asks if that's how Drew became head counselor, but Mitch says that she actually inherited it from Selena. Drew is the oldest remaining camper, and it automatically goes to the oldest unless someone with more years or more completed quests wants to challenge it, at which point there is a duel. Quote, but that hardly ever happens. Very excited for this to happen. Like, if this doesn't happen, I will write a very strongly worded email to Rick Riordan. But come on.
Yeah.
Piper has to duel her for the head counselors. Come on.
What do you think an Aphrodite duel might look like?
It could go in so many directions. It could be a beauty off. It wouldn't be this, but I want it to be a decathlon of beauty. Like, I want you to have to do a runway walk. I want you to have to do a makeup thing. I want you to have to do a hair thing. I want you to have to put together an outfit for yourself, for someone else. Maybe we go more of the actual war tactics and you do PETA, can you make yourself look like shrubbery with makeup kind of thing, camouflaging. There's so many things. I don't know what it would actually be like though. I'm really intrigued. I really hope that there is this duel though. It feels like Chekhov's duel.
I like this concept of RuPaul's Olympics.
Yeah. Oh God. Yes. The great RuPaul games. Yes, please. Yeah. Give me the whole performance element. I would love it. Gosh, it would be so good. Tim Gunn is here. Get some Project Runaway in the mix. Please,
the mist doesn't matter. The mist will part for Tim Gunn.
God. He is confirmed a demigod. There's no way. There's absolutely
Who do you think?
No
Whose
way.
child?
I mean, it has to be Aphrodite. It just with the dress. If not that, maybe Apollo, just because his performance, even though he's not performing, just the presence that he brings to that show is just so good. Designers. Oh God. So good. So good. I love Tim Gunn. Everyone look up the Tim Gunn AMA. It was a Reddit men's fashion thing from 8 years ago. And he trash talks vests, or specifically sweater vests. And it's so funny. Someone asked how do I pull off a sweater vest? And Tim Gunn is basically impossible. You will look like a school child.
Pull it
Just
off
don't do
on
it.
The floor in the trash. It's gone. Goodbye.
Exactly. The only way to do it is to get rid of it. So Mitch says this. Sweet Summer Mitch thinks that this duel won't happen. It better happen. He begins to say that Drew has been in charge since August and has made some changes, and then Drew reappears to confirm that, finishing the sentence basically. And then she tells Mitch that he missed some trash, but he didn't actually miss the trash. She just emptied out the bathroom trash on the ground. That's awful. Disgusting.
Yeah, that's
so
mean.
over the top.
That's just not
super
nice.
mean. Super unnecessary. The narrator about this is, quote, Mitchell sat up on his haunches. He glared at Drew like he was about to attack, which Piper would have paid money to see, but finally he snapped, fine. And ooh, I really like Mitch. This is good. I really enjoy him. And just after this, things get really interesting because we are not supposed to like Drew. It's pretty well established that Drew is bad. She's doing a lot of over-the-top bad things. However, she's the only one that's rational about Selena Beauregard because Drew opens with some comment about the cabin being a happy family, but then almost needlessly hard pivots into Piper needing to take a warning from Selena since she was secretly passing information to the enemy. And of course, this rocks Piper to her core because she is considering doing that.
Yeah.
Drew says none of the other cabins talk about it. Instead, they act like Selena was a hero. And I was like, oh no, Drew is right. Or at least I agree with Drew. I know that there's some people who don't, but like, I don't think just because you did a nice thing at the end, it's okay. Mitch tries to make that exact argument. He says she sacrificed her life to make things right, arguing that makes her a hero. And I think that's wrong. I think it's okay to do, but you don't just get to like do one thing and undo all the other bad stuff you've done. Either that or we got to change the definition of hero because I don't like the current definition, but it made it hard because I know they're going for Drew is incorrect, but I really agree with Drew here.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you remember they're like 15 and 16.
And I totally get it. The thing that's just, she should have told Percy in the Plaza Hotel. She should have told him then.
Yeah.
They were alone. There were no stakes. There was no harm to be done. Only good could have happened from it.
But how do we get the scene of Ares' cabin coming back?
I don't know, man. Like
you got to give Dior what she wants. Like
Clarice could have figured it out even, or
you got to give Dior what she wants.
The whole same thing could have happened, but right before she leaves, Selena could have been like, "Oh, and by the way, I was the spy. Bye. I'm gonna go win Clarice over." Like, I think you could have had exactly the same thing. Anyway, Drew gives Mitch another day on garbage patrol for this take, and you know what? I think it's okay. Now, speaking of garbage, Drew goes back to being garbage by saying that Selena lost sight of what this cabin is all about. Playing matchmaker at camp, then breaking the couples up, and then doing it all over again. It's like, okay, fine. Here's a bad read. We're back to Drew being terrible.
Yeah.
She says that wars and quests are a waste of time, which is why she's never been on a quest, which is great justification of like, oh, I didn't do this because of these reasons. And Lacey begins to correct that Drew said that last night she wanted to go on a quest, but stops once Drew shoots her dagger eyes. Quote, most of all, we certainly don't need our image tarnished by spies, do we? Piper, in italics from Drew. And like, I don't know how she figured this out or has this inkling or whatever, but I mean, she's not wrong. Like,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to wonder, like, does she know or is she just being mean to the new girl?
Is she a broken clock that happens to be
Yes.
right twice a day? You know, is it just a guess that happens to be right? Correct answer on the math final with the wrong showing of the work, but you still got that the answer is 17.4 repeating.
That was the most satisfying feeling ever.
Always good when it was on a test that like didn't need the work to do it. Like if it was somehow a multiple choice thing and you were like, oh, I did the wrong thing, but I got the right answer. On the flip side, I definitely had professors in college where, and honestly, I think this is correct. Whatever you put in the answer is worth 1 point. Whatever your work is showing, that's worth 19 out of the 20 points.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that because like if you do the right thing, but you carry the number wrong or you make a silly goof, like you say 3 squared is 6 instead of 9, then they're like, yeah, I'll dock you for 1 point. Like that I really appreciated. But it is always nice when you have a multiple choice thing and you're like, oh, I did it completely wrong, but the answer was 5.
Counterpoint, your mistake was taking math classes in college. And I would highly recommend art school.
Yeah, you look.
Where my math class was social media for the arts in 2012.
Ooh, you know, it's one of those things where like people are like, oh, if you could go back in time and like do it over again, would you have done it differently? No, because I love where my life has ended up. And like maybe if I didn't take an engineering degree, I wouldn't have the job that I have.
Yeah.
All those things, it's like, oh, if you could go back in time and have the knowledge that you do now, would you do it? Like, absolutely not. You could not pay me enough money me to do that because I would just freak out and cause myself so much stress trying to exactly recreate my life the exact way it's happened.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate. I love my life. Things are going very well.
Kelly
Things are good
for like 13 years.
But like because we went to college, but we like hung out one time. So I'd have to be like, I am very tempted to hang out with her, but I can't. And we had a lot of like crossover friends. Like, it would ruin me. It would absolutely ruin me. I would have to do all the other relationships that I did. Like, terrible.
I feel like there are a few points in my life that I'm curious about. Like if I die and then they play like a bunch of like VCR tapes of like the other opportunities in my life. It's like
sliding doors, sure.
Yeah. We had the opportunity to move to Germany when I was 8.
Whoa.
So that would have been like my sister with a heavy German accent is the funniest thing that I could ever imagine. Like she would have been 3 when we moved. So if I could have seen a tape of what it would be like to grow up in Germany, that would be super cool. If I went to school for performing arts and if COVID never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are 3 tapes I would like to see when I die.
I would only want to see ones where my life was like worse. Like I wouldn't want to see one where it's like, well, actually you became the most famous, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would only want to see other things. But like, I guess my big one is
world peace.
You cured cancer. Oh no. But I guess the big one for me, if I didn't move from New Jersey to Texas, what would happen? And I think Josh Pacifico and I start like a 2-man comedy something.
Yeah.
Because
that sounds right.
We did that in middle school and we would have kept it up. I don't know if there's any other big ones, but that's the biggest. If I stayed in New Jersey, what would have happened? But
you would be 98% pizza.
Oh, yeah. Would I still have the like somewhat regional accent that I did? Or did I do the thing where I started getting bullied for saying basketball in my freshman year where I was like, I need a hard pivot to having a non-regional accent. Hello, I am on the basketball team. Anyway, Piper cannot answer Drew because she's too busy worrying about if Drew knows what's up. Drew says if Piper returns alive, they can set her up with a gross Cabin 9 camper or Clovis, who she calls repulsive. And as a big Clovis fan, I did not like this.
Right.
I was aghast at that comment. How dare you? I love Clovis. Drew gives Piper a look of pity and disgust while stating she didn't think Aphrodite could have an ugly child. Ugh. I will say, Drew's a well-crafted bully. Like, her digs are very good, and that's a really solid one. She then begins to ask if her father was some sort of mutant, and then Piper answers, Tristan McLean, and immediately regrets pulling the famous dad card. But I get it, and I'm very glad that I can call him something that's 2 syllables now. I can just call him Tristan instead of Mr. McLean. Someone did make a funny tweet where they said, I love that in a previous episode I complained that saying Mr. McLean was too long, but I always call Rachel Elizabeth Dare. And what I had tweeted out was, if Mr. McLean doesn't have enough time to have real conversations with his daughter, I don't have enough time to say Mr. McLean. Also, Rachel Elizabeth Dare is a perfect angel, and I would say her name if it was 800 syllables long. But yes, I can just call him Tristan now, which is good. Easier to say.
Triss.
T. So everyone turns and looks at the poster while half the girls scream, oh my God. And one guy goes, sweet, the dude with the sword who killed that other dude in that movie? Which is a great way to describe it. And one girl says, he is so hot for an old guy. I mean, I'm sorry. I know he's your dad. That's so weird. And then Piper with a great response just goes, it's weird, all right, which is the only response you can say.
Also, when they say that he's old, is he probably around our age?
If Piper's 15 or 16, I would guess he's probably like early 40s. So maybe, or even
my partner's
older.
40, like.
Sure, right. Yeah. So he's at least in our ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, we had a meltdown one day when in the Breakfast in Beauclair Discord, one of our guys, we realized one of our friends is the same age as his dad. And we just had a complete meltdown of just like, cool.
Yep. Yeah, that was like when Sue Bird in her last season in the WNBA, there was a rookie on the team whose mom was the same age as Sue Bird. It's like, cool, we're teammates and I'm your mother's age. Great. That's fun. That's very fun.
Yeah.
So another camper asks if she can get an autograph. Piper says sure. Then all the kids rush up and ask the classic questions. But one question is, have you had your rite of passage? And Piper asks, what's that? And they explain that to prove you're worthy of Aphrodite, you make someone fall in love with you and then then dump them, breaking their heart. Piper thinks that's terrible. A guy asks why. A girl says Aphrodite probably broke her dad's heart, so when she does it, she'll be just like their mom. And I'm worried that this might unintentionally happen to Jason, where it could be a thing where they get together, something happens where they break up, the Aphrodite campers are actually excited, and then some time passes, and then they get back together. That's on the table just because they talked about this. And I'm worried. I don't think Piper's going to intentionally do it, but maybe if anything, she does a Spider-Man breakup, especially if she full-fledged thinks that she is going to do the evil deed. Maybe she does have to push Jason away even though she likes him. So I could see it happening, but we'll keep your trapdoor intact so we won't talk about it further. Piper thinks that this whole idea is awful and doesn't want to do it. It is awful.
It is. It's awful.
It's objectively terrible. Drew pounces on this, saying that the last person to refuse was Selena, and she credits her evil turn based on this decision. I was like, I don't think so. That feels like not the right way. Lacey tries to protest, but Drew waves it off anyway, saying that it's all a moot point because Piper couldn't break anyone's heart anyway. She also insinuates that she was lying about Tristan being her father, and the other kids then begin to question it. Drew says it's time for breakfast and time for Piper to leave for her quest. Piper puts on the new clothes, which are more quest-appropriate jeans, boots, and a t-shirt. And then Piper thanks Mitch and Lacey for helping her when she walks out of the bathroom, and also notices that the poster has now been crumpled up and placed into the trash. Feels very much like Drew did this.
Yeah.
Piper realizes the absurdity of now being pro-poster because earlier in the chapter, she wanted the poster to be crumpled up in the trash, but now she's upset that the poster is crumpled up in the trash.
Yeah. I'm mad about the thing, but I'm more mad about you.
I hate you, so I don't like that this thing I wanted has happened because it makes you happy. Drew fake applauds Piper's new outfit, calling it dumpster clothes, wishes her good luck with whatever, bye.
Yeah.
Which is great. So good. And as Piper is leaving, she thinks that she could just ignore everyone here and not worry about them, but some of the campers were nice, so she wants to do right by them. So she announces that they don't have to follow Drew's orders. One says, well, she's the head counselor. Piper says she's a tyrant and they should think for themselves, and adds that there must be more to being an Aphrodite cabin member than this. Some are on board. Drew tells them it's charm speak. Piper says, no, it's just the truth. And as the narrator, she admits that she isn't really sure if it was or wasn't, because she's not really certain how to use this power quite yet, but she hopes that she wasn't using it because it would make her like Drew, and it would mean tricking people to win an argument, neither of which she wants to do, which I think is the correct approach. Drew then says, quote, you may have a little power, Miss Movie Star, but you don't know the first thing about Aphrodite. You have such great ideas. What do you think this cabin is about then? Tell them. Then maybe I'll tell them few things about you, huh? And then Piper panics about being a spy and Drew knowing, and all Piper says is, not this. Aphrodite is not about this. And then she turns to leave before people can see that she's blushing.
Yeah.
Drew scoffs it off, stating that Piper clearly doesn't know what she's talking about. Piper thinks that she will never return to this cabin and storms off, unsure of where she is heading, quote, until she saw the dragon swooping down from the sky. And that made me very excited because that means Leo got the wings to work. Yay. And that's the end of chapter 15, which I have titled, I Deal with the Trash.
Ooh, okay. I was going with something like I Drew the Short Stick.
Yeah, I like it. It's good. All right, well, we'll take our quick break here for The Lost Euro, and then we will get into chapter 16, which is quite short, which is good because we are running out of time for this episode, but we will get into that
Pickleball
and
was
conclude
important.
this episode. It was. I have to find the ways to trash on pickleball. It is essential. Hello and welcome to the Lost Euro Shubio edition. Hello, how is it going? Here to give you some updates about the podcast and stuff. First, we are past the halfway point of June, meaning that the TNO live shows in July are just around the corner. We've got shows in Seattle and Vancouver, BC. Then we've got shows later in the year in Berkeley and in Atlanta and in Nashville. I'm also going to be at LeakyCon Portland over July 5th through 7th. You can get tickets to all of my shows at thenewsolympian.com/live. You can get tickets at LeakyCon at leakycon.com. I do have my schedule, at least at the time of recording this on June 15th, of what I will be doing at LeakyCon if you're trying to come to particular days where I will be doing stuff. As of right now, I will be doing Potterless Live and a Percy Jackson fanfiction thing with Sequoia Simone on Friday. And then on Saturday, I'll be doing a podcaster panel and TNO Live. And then on Sunday, I will probably be doing some other stuff, but nothing specifically for my podcasts. That might change. I will post stuff on social media when I have more concrete concrete scheduling things, but that is what it's currently looking like. But speaking of those live shows, I do have more updates about the Pacific Northwest ones in terms of who's going to be the guest and what we're going to be covering. Both of those will have Nathan Cox as the guest. I'm very excited to do more shows with Nathan. We will be covering chapters 25 and 26 of The Lost Hero in Seattle, and then chapters 27 and 28 of The Lost Hero in Vancouver. So if you want to come to those shows, that's what you want to read. You could come to both shows, hop on the Amtrak. That's what I'll be doing. And in general, if you ever want to be up to date with what we are covering on the News Olympian, you can always go to thenewsolympian.com/about. We have hit a pretty solid groove of always doing these 2 chapters at a time thing, so hopefully I can just kind of keep that going in the future, but it's always there, and there's a bunch of other good stuff on the website. Check it out. Now, if you're all caught up on the News Olympian and you're looking for a new podcast to listen to, you're in luck, because I make a whole bunch of them, so you can listen to those while you're waiting for new episodes of TNO to come out. And one of the shows I make, I just made reference to it earlier, is Potterless. Potterless is similar in structure to the News Olympian, but it is a podcast that I did about the Harry Potter books. I made it before TNO. It is also me going through those books for the very first time because I never read those as a kid as well. It is fun. It's different sounding in terms of the fact that I didn't make it all ages, so it can get a little spicier at times, but it's a good time and I'm proud of it. And you can listen to over 200 episodes of it at potterlesspodcast.com or by searching for Potterless wherever you get your podcasts. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon where you get access to ad-free and early release episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, such as by one of our new sponsors, Thrive Market. They do really cool online groceries and they do organic stuff and a bunch of really cool things. I really enjoy my stuff from Thrive, but some of the ads won't be read by me and those are inserted locally. So if you live in Argentina, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in Spanish. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of the News Olympian. And we are back, and we're here to talk about Chapter 16, which is also called Piper. It opens with Piper going, "Leo?" which is just great. Fantastic way to open it. The camp is an absolute bedlam. Satyrs are running around, people are freaking out, conch horns are blowing, alarms are going off. It's absolute chaos. Leo then lands the dragon in the middle of the green and yells, "It's cool, don't shoot." And the archers then lower their bows, the warriors back off, and they kind of sheath and put away their weapons. And some campers form a circle around the dragon, while others stay hidden either behind something or they stay in their cabins and look through the windows. And yeah, it's a very strange, terrifying situation, so I totally get it. Piper can't blame them given the size of the dragon, especially with the huge wings, but she says aloud that it's beautiful and everyone is very confused by her. The dragon then shoots fire into the sky, the campers scatter and then redraw their weapons, but Leo slides off the dragon with his hands raised and goes, "People of Earth, I come in peace."
So Leo Valdez.
So good. It's so funny. He's great. And what makes this even wilder is that apparently he looks rough. He is burnt. He is ashy. He is oily. He has wild hair. His eyes are bloodshot. He's got a huge grin. He smells of Tabasco sauce. Just the most absurd combination possible.
Just make it a little spicy.
Yeah. Leo explains that Festus is just saying hello, and Ares camper wants to kill it. Jason, who is joined by Annabeth and Nyssa, orders them to stand down. He asks Leo what he has done, and Leo says that he found a ride. And he says, quote, "You said I could go on the quest if I got you a ride. Well, I got you a Class A metallic flying bad boy. Festus can take us anywhere." And someone on the subreddit recently pointed out that it's a funny flip between Percy and Jason where Percy was not allowed to be in the sky for his first quest.
Yeah.
And Jason has to be sky only for his quest. I think it's very fun to have the Earth, now that I'm thinking that Gaia is the big bad, the Earth be the villain that we have to deal with. I think it's super interesting. That's a fun thing I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah.
Nyssa is shocked that the dragon has wings. Leo is hyped, saying that he found them and reattached them. Nyssa responds that it never had wings, so asks, "Where did you find them?" Leo hesitates, enough to where Piper knows that he's hiding something, and says, "In the woods," and quickly adds that he also fixed the wiring issues, quote, "mostly." And Nyssa doesn't love that is not completely, which is valid.
And is this where the ear comes in?
The ear.
Oh, the oil leaking from Festus's ear.
Oh.
He's like, he's mostly fine. Yeah. And then like just this very large child having just like an ear infection openly.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. It's very, oh, my dog doesn't bite, and then it immediately tries to bite you or something. Yeah. Just awful timing for something to happen. Narrator Piper says, quote, "The dragon's head twitched, it tilted to one side, yeah, here it is, and a stream of black liquid, maybe oil, hopefully just oil, poured out of its ear all over Leo."
Yeah.
So yes, perfect comedic timing by the dragon. Nissa asks how he survived the fire breath. Leo says that he's simply quick and lucky. I don't know why he wouldn't want to just admit that he has the cool fire powers. Maybe he's just trying to like not draw attention to himself because he knows it's rare. But Leo's being very guarded, and I'm intrigued to see if he opens up about this in the future chapters. I can understand him not wanting to talk about the cave, at least not in like the big group setting with everyone. Maybe he will tell the Hephaestus campers or at least Nissa at some point. But I was confused as to why. Maybe he just doesn't want to bring more attention to himself. Yeah. But I hope he does talk about it with the other two. And I feel like he will. So I'm intrigued to see where that goes. But he just asks, am I on this quest or not? And Jason is surprised that Leo named the dragon Festus because that's Latin for happy. And no, it isn't. I took Latin in high school. I did not have to look this one up. Festus means celebration, like festival is where we get that from. So happiness is similar, but the word for happy is Felix, which is also a name. Felix Felicis is a word that means lucky. I knew this because if we had a boy, that was a name I was considering, just because I thought it would be cool. I think we are not doing it because people are like, oh, you're going to name him a Percy Jackson thing? No, the closest I would get is Latin for Latin.
I mean, that was like
joke.
you with Piper. Is that a Percy Jackson thing? I mean, it's not.
But also, it's okay to do that for a dog. It is different to do it for a child. I won't be naming my child after my job. It's whack. But yeah, Felix means happy, not Festus. And I don't know how Rick messed this up because Felix is a name. Like, it's not like it was going to be something else. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Felix means happy or lucky, which is why Felix Felicis in Harry Potter literally just means lucky. It is just the first two declensions of the noun happy.
I wonder if it's also just kind of ties up nicely because it was in a previous chapter. Leo was just like, he mishears Hephaestus and he's like, Festus? And they're just like, no, Hephaestus. So it might just be him being a little silly.
Sure. I mean, it's not Leo's fault. Yeah, right. Yeah. Jason should have said, I guess it's for the next joke. Maybe, I guess that's probably what Rick was going for because Jason then asks, are we really going to save the world riding Happy the Dragon? Which does hit as a joke better than, are we really going to save the world riding on Celebration the Dragon? Like, that's not funny. So I get it. And anyone else reading this book would not care. Right. But me, using any opportunity I can to flex that I took Latin in high school, clearly, I will be upset. Stay tuned for new TNO. I took Latin in high school merch. I think we're going to bring the notebooks back that I did for Potterless, but now make TNO versions. Festus shakes and flaps his wings, causing Leo to exclaim, "That's a yes, bro!" Leo then, with absolutely no chill, says, "Now, I'd really suggest we get going, guys. I already picked up some supplies in the, woods, and all these people with weapons are making Festus nervous. Just not blowing the cover. I would love to play poker against Leo Valdez."
Oh, you'd win. That's no contest.
Yeah.
No contest.
Jason doesn't want to leave just quite yet because they have no plans. But then Chiron enters and says, "We're too far along in the book. You have to get going." No, actually, Annabeth hops in and says, "You should just go." She doesn't look nervous. Instead, she has a look of longing, like it reminds her of the good old days. She adds that they only have 3 days until the solstice. They shouldn't keep a dragon waiting. And it's surely a good omen that Leo is here with the dragon. So just get out on the quest. It doesn't matter. Get going. You'll figure it out as you go. And also, it does make for a more compelling book.
Yeah, there is something very bittersweet about seeing Annabeth's reaction that we've spent, all these books with her and then to see her being left behind.
Yes.
It's just, it's just like, oh no, bye. We're going with you, Mom and Dad, now.
I feel like she's going to be back in a future book where we're going to follow her, which will be fun. And I also wonder, I know there's other spin-off books and stuff, and I know there's some Heroes of Olympus ones. I wonder if one of the spin-off books, because I think there's not demigods and monsters, but I think it's like demigods and magicians or something is like the Heroes of Olympus, like kind of companion booky sort of thing. And there's the demigod diaries as well, not the demigod files. I wonder if one of those stories will be like, here's what Annabeth was up to. I think that could be fun. And if it's not written yet, it opens the door for something for Rick to write in the future. Yeah. Jason smiles at Piper and asks, "You ready, partner?" Which it's funny because depending on how you read this is very different. Because reading it as Jason, who is not from Texas, this feels like just a nice kind of like, you're my partner in this thing, my partner in crime, whatever.
But not a romantic partner.
Not a romantic partner, but maybe. But I'm going to wait until you have free will and consent again because I'm a good boy. But also, if he was Texan, it's a very different read of, "You ready, partner?" But I guess that would have to be like PARDNER. Like it's just a very different read of partner versus partner. Piper responds, "You bet." And I love this crew. It's a fun team where no one knows what's happening. Like at least with the other crew, like Grover had all this knowledge and Annabeth had all this knowledge and then Percy's just there.
Yes.
But none of these three know what's happening and it's absolutely chaotic and I love it.
Yeah. More good things to come. I'm so excited for you.
Oh, it's really exciting. Then narrator Piper says, quote, "Flying on the dragon was the most amazing experience ever," Piper thought. And that's fun. Apparently the air is cold, but the dragon gives off a bunch of heat, so they're okay. Quote, "Talk about seat warmers." And I love this because in the 2000s, seat warmers in your car was the height of luxury. I remember my parents' 2001 Nissan Maxima, which I later got 14 years later when I graduated college with a million zillion miles on it. That was in 2001. I was like, oh my God, this car has seat warmers. Incredible. And now cars have like air conditioning in the seats and some have like massage chairs. Just 2000s, that was such like, oh, this car has seat warmers.
Yeah, we had a very good life in 2004. We're gonna keep going back to it.
Yeah, baby. Well, but the problem with cars from 2004 to 2006 is that they had CD player, no tape deck, which was tough for later on when you wanted to plug in your iPod. Thankfully, when I had the Maxima after I got it graduating college, the Maxima, which I did rename Steve had CD player and tape deck, so I got to do the little like auxiliary cord thing, which was so much easier than the things that you would plug into the bottom of the iPod Touch that would like do the radio, and you have to find the right like radio thing to like, and it would mess up and it would come unplugged. Like, and then after Steve the Maxima tragically died, I had to get my mom's 2004 Nissan Altima, which only had the CD player, and that was very annoying. So I had to like figure out how to burn discs, and then I had a bunch of burnt CDs to get my way through driving that in, the years 2016.
Yeah. What a time, though. What a great time for burning CDs. I had a blood red car called Caesar.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Yeah.
Well, because my best friends in high school, their cars were named Jasper and Xavier. So we just kind of kept it rolling. Just the ers.
Yeah, but blood Caesar, you could have put like 30 little tiny swords on the back, like, that
all in the shape of like a just giant smiley face.
Yep, little et-tu. That'd be great. Anyway, Percy Jackson. The grooves in the dragon's back are designed like saddles. So Leo shows the team how to fasten themselves in, and they sit Leo, then Piper, then Jason. And about this narrator, Piper says, Piper was very aware of Jason right behind her. And my thought was, don't fart, don't fart, don't fart. He will smell it.
In the air?
Look, if it's really bad, I don't know. Yeah, there's probably enough wind where you're okay. But anyway, Piper, as the narrator says, quote, "She wished he would hold on to her, maybe wrap his arms around her waist, but sadly he didn't." They are such teenagers, and this is exactly what I would have been thinking if I was there. Like, if I was in Jason's shoes, I would be freaking out the whole time of, should I put my arms on her, or is that going too fast? Is this too much? Am I too forward?
Let's set the reality of the scene, though, for a hot second. If Piper's hair is either down or in a ponytail and they're just flying at a bajillion miles an hour and the whole ride is just like, that can't be great. Like, imagine being in the back of a roller coaster, face to back of head with like, Kelly or somebody, and it's just like, you're just eating hair the whole time.
And I believe canonically Piper has braids, or at least at one point in time she did. So this could just be like, just like constant, just whip, whip, whip. Piper should be sitting in the back. You are correct. Or maybe they're spaced out enough, like on a roller coaster where it's okay. But my impression is that with saddle type things, like they're probably close. Yeah. They're probably close in their seating arrangement. It doesn't Yeah, that's really funny. I didn't think of that. So Leo steers the dragon with the reins, like he's been doing this his whole life. He turns back and says, cool, right? Piper asks, what if they get caught? Jason says the mist will protect them. Piper asks, are you sure? Jason says no. Piper sees that he's holding the Thalia photo, which feels risky since they are flying in the sky.
Yeah.
And then she gives him a questioning look. Jason then blushes and puts it away. He says they're making good time and should arrive by the evening. Piper wants to know who the girl in the photo is, but doesn't want to ask, so good instinct from her. Also, she realizes that if Jason didn't offer up the information initially, it can't be good.
Yeah.
In addition to him not wanting to share it, she fears that it's from his past, maybe his real girlfriend, and that is 1,000% understandable as a first thought. Again, that is exactly the first thing I would have thought. Oh my God, who's this person in the photo? Oh, it's your brother. Classic sort of thought. Piper instead asks where they are going. Jason says to find the god of the north wind and chase some storm spirits, which feels very CSI Miami.
Yeah.
Ending sort of thing. And that's the end of this chapter, which I have titled as We Go for a Happy Ride, even though it's the wrong use of the Latin word.
Oh, is the addendum in parentheses or like a comma or?
Oh, yeah, right. It's a footnote actually.
Okay,
Little number 1, and then if you flip all the way to the back of the book, it's like, "Hi, my name is Mike Schubert. I took Latin in high school."
I see. I feel like this would look really great as like a full page title, like, and then you have like a single line, a single line of the text.
We go for a ride. Yeah, like when a book has an essay after the main title. We go for a happy ride, except actually we go for a celebration ride because Festus translates to celebration in English, not happy. That would be Felix. And that's just the whole page.
Body copy right at the bottom. Leo? Question mark.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Leo.
I might not be clever enough or fast enough to come up with another title.
That's fine. That's okay.
It's head empty no thought. There must be something about like an out of the woods sort of thing.
Or soaring, flying, get a little Disney.
There's not a star in
there.
heaven that we can't reach.
Oh,
this is so 2006, man.
We've done it. Full circle, mission complete. Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on this episode.
Yes.
If people want to find you doing stuff, where can they find you doing stuff?
Literally all of the places. So I podcast at Breakfast in Beauclair. If you like The Witcher, you like the books, you want to hear about it, in a similar style podcast with guests from all over the world, you can find that at Breakfast in Beauclair on all the social medias and on your podcast feeds. I'm also the executive producer of Pecurliar Radio. If audio fiction podcasts are your speed or you want to step into the world of audio fiction, Pecurliar Radio is a show about a small town radio station and hijinks ensue. Also a really great full cast ensemble production. We're so proud of it. So if you like Heroes of Olympus, you might also like Pecurliar Radio.
There you go.
Yeah. And if you want to see my painting stuff, you can find that at It's an Art Journal. And yeah, I actually made a friend through my appearance on the newest Olympian because I mentioned it the last time I was on the show. And turns out somebody who I followed heard about it on the newest Olympian. I was like, yeah, I do urban sketching in New York City. And they're like, I do urban sketching in New York City. So they messaged me, Katie Woodward, she's online at Rambling Sketcher. And she's like, we should meet up the next time, like, there's a painting meetup. So we did. I cried meeting this person for the first time. And now we're good friends, which is so thank you for that. And you can find Piper at Piper Cuts on Instagram.
Yes, amazing. I love it. I love the community elements that have come along with the podcast is so fun, whether that's like online stuff, people becoming friends in the Discord, meeting up at live shows, becoming friends because they just happen to be sitting next to someone at the live show. Like that stuff makes me so happy. So that's really cool. And I am so glad that this has continued to spark more community stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, when we figure out how things go as they fly, maybe this will be Canada time or they will soon get to Canada. But until then, I'll see you later. Hello. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamontes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you can't get enough of the podcast, you can get involved in a couple of different ways. First, you can support us on Patreon, where you get bonus content. You can go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You can also find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can go to our website, thenewestolympian.com, to learn more about the show. You can check out live shows that we've got coming near you at thenewestolympian.com/live. You can check out our merch page at thenewestolympian.com/merch. That's also where the TNO coffee lives. And for community stuff, we have a subreddit where you can chat with folks, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. And we also have the Discord, which is accessible to all folks on Patreon. Speaking of the Patreon, I want to give a shout out to our folks producing at the highest tier, our producer level patrons. Shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Veronica Bartova, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Polly Burridge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Ashton Gabrielson, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Riley Kiddes, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Julia Kendall, Rike, John Drillsma, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, King Bastion, One Damn Distraction Coming Up, Ginger Spursboy, A Cup of Solace, Meg Roy, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Sophie, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Finley McLeod, Sarah Elise Arnson, Bella, Hayden Neal, Percy Jackson, and Han Haley Hingelheimer Schmidt. If you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth helps the show so much. Whether you post about the show on social media or you reach out to someone directly, someone who you know is a big Percy Jackson fan, or someone you've been trying to convince to get into the Percy Jackson books, saying, hey, there's this podcast that's called The Newest Olympian. It's really good. You should check it out. Also, you could leave the show a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. Whatever you do to spread the word of the show really does help. I'm appreciative to anyone who has done it in the past, and I'm appreciative to anyone who will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, where we will be joined by new person to the TNO guesting sphere, resident Canadian Jenna Buck. We'll be breaking down chapters 17 and 18 of The Lost Hero, but until then, I'll pursue you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So as I prepare for the upcoming live shows, I have to get some of my technology together, and one of the things is my Zoom H4n recording device that I use to record. They're not paying me for the name drop. It is just what I use. I have it here in a carrying case, so I'll just do some stuff that's going to make some noise. So here's me shaking the carrying case, because there is like a little plastic insert that I keep loose in there. And then here's me opening the carrying case. And then here's me, pushing some of the buttons on the Zoom H4n itself. Thank you so much for listening. My new improved editing software has been really good at removing noises, so that might have been incredibly quiet.